Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Freaky Friday to all you freaks out there. I hope your day and your week are going very well so far. Got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes a new opportunity to go ahead and make some money, and today is Freaky Friday, so of course, we have our 5-leg Freaky Friday parlay to share with you guys in today's video. Really excited about today's parlay, guys. These Freaky Friday parlays, we've hit one so far this year, which was a big one, obviously. Last week, we hit 4 out of 5 legs. The one leg we missed was Josh Giddey over 9.5 points. We missed it by 1 point. I believe the week before that, also, we hit 4 out of 5 legs and missed it by 1 leg. So even when we haven't been hitting this, we've been very, very close. So feeling really positive going into today's video, and I promise you guys there will be no Josh Giddey picks in today's parlay. No Giddey. That's my promise to you guys. But real quick, before we dive into today's parlay, a quick little recap of how we did in last night's parlay. We only had one game on last night, so I did a little 4-leg parlay plus 130 odds. I typically don't do things like that because these high odd lines, sometimes they don't always work out in your favor. For example, we lost. We had 3 out of 4 legs hit. The one leg that didn't cash, Daniel Gafford, over 5.5 rebounds. He finished with exactly 5. So we were 1 rebound away from a cash there. Unfortunately, he only played 19 minutes yesterday, so that was the big thing. When he only plays 19 minutes, less than 20 minutes, the data wasn't very good. He had been playing solid minutes leading to that game, but just not enough minutes to go ahead and cash that over. But it is what it is. We're not going to dwell on it too much. We got a new day and a bigger parlay, some bigger fish to fry in today's video. Let's not waste any time, guys. Let's dive into this week's Freaky Friday 5-leg parlay. Actually, I lied. One more thing before we dive into the parlay. Guys, make sure to comment Freaky down below. And if the parlay hits, one lucky commenter will be selected to win a free $25 Amazon gift card. That's right. All you have to do is comment Freaky. And if the parlay hits, one commenter will be selected to win a free $25 Amazon gift card. Okay, with that out of the way, now let's dive into today's parlay. Jumping into the outlier screen, guys, our first pick comes from the Lakers-Spurs game, 7:30 p.m. tip-off, and spoiler alert, I actually have 2 picks. 2 of our 5 legs are coming from this same game. So our first leg of our 5-leg parlay is Devin Vassell of the San Antonio Spurs over 15.5 points plus assists. This is an alternate line. We do have some alternate lines in today's parlay. This is minus 215 on DraftKings. This is a DraftKings exclusive parlay. If you don't use DraftKings, you still want to play along, you can go ahead and play with the lines here. I'm sure it's available on some other books. This prop, though, is not available. I just looked. It's not available on any books besides DraftKings. I mean, other books, just not FanDuel. So if you're looking for FanDuel, this prop's not going to be available. But we are using DraftKings for today's parlay. Now, Vassell has only played in 3 games so far this year for San Antonio, but so far in all 3 games, he has cashed the over. 100% hit rate this year. Through 3 games, he's averaging 19.67 points plus assists per game. So pretty good numbers there for Devin Vassell. Looking back at last year in 2023, an 85% hit rate on this over. 58 out of 68 games last year for the Spurs. He cashed the over, averaging 23.53 points plus assists per game last season. Now, this is an alternate line. That's the reason why the data is so good, but he's hit this number pretty consistently. In his last 10 games, he's cashed in 9 of his last 10 dating back to last season. Again, averaging 25 points plus assists per game over his last 10 games. And the numbers for Devin Vassell when they play in San Antonio at home are pretty impressive. This is an insight provided by Outlier. Devin Vassell has exceeded 17.5 points plus assists. So we're getting it at 15.5, but he's exceeded the 17.5 points plus assists line in 16 of his last 19 games at home, of course, dating back to last season, averaging a whopping 24.5 points plus assists per game average over his last 19 home games, an 84% hit rate. The one area that's not totally bright is the head-to-head data. He's only cashed in 1 of his last 3 meetings versus the Lakers, but you see that one cash, he had an incredibly massive game, 36 points in 3 assists back on December 15th of last year against the Lakers. He had a very narrow miss on December 13th. He had 13 points and 4 assists in that one. And the last time they played on February 23rd, he had just 10 points and 3 assists. Really what it comes down to is those 2 games we didn't cover. He did not shoot the ball well at all, 5 for 15 in this one back on December 13th. And on February 23rd, just 3 for 15. So that's kind of what it comes down to. The volume was there, just the shots weren't falling. That being said, though, the match was pretty solid. The Lakers overall this year, 24th in points allowed, 28th in assists allowed overall to opposing teams versus the shooting guard position, though, 23rd in points allowed, 14th in assists allowed. So pretty good matchup here for Devin Vassell. I like the spot here. All right, guys, next up, our second leg in today's parlay. We're looking at Anthony Davis, still sticking with his Lakers-Spurs game. Anthony Davis over 24.5 points. This is minus 240 on DraftKings. It is available minus 180 on FanDuel if you guys want to build a little, take some of the picks and put it on a parlay on FanDuel. It is available on FanDuel for minus 180, a little bit better odds, actually. But the numbers are solid for Davis. He's cashed the over in 7 out of 10 games so far this year for the Lakers, averaging 30.2 points per game this year. Even when he's missed, he scored at least 21 points in every game this year for the Lakers. So pretty good numbers there for Davis. Overall, looking back at last year even, a 55% hit rate, 46 out of 83 games, including the postseason. He cashed the over for the Lakers, averaging 25.01 points per game last season. And the head-to-head data also very solid as well. Each of his last two meetings against the San Antonio Spurs, he's cashed the over, averaging 32.5 points per game against the Spurs back. On December 13th, he had 37 points, and on February 23rd, he had 28 points. So pretty solid performances. Again, the Lakers, like we just talked about, the Spurs, overall, they're fifth actually defensive. They're actually a pretty solid defensive team, but versus centers, they are 20th in the NBA right now, giving up 20.5 points per game against opposing centers. And again, you look at the recent head-to-head data, Davis has had success going up against the Victor Wembanyama-era Spurs. He's had some pretty good success, averaging 32.5 points per game in those two matchups. He's taking a lot of shots in those games, and he's making a high percentage of those shots. You see here, he shot 13 for 23, 57%. In the second meeting, he shot 10 for 14, 71%. And like I said, guys, volume is there. He's averaging about 34.8 minutes per game so far this year, and he's taking about 18.4 shots per game and shooting about 56% from the floor. So pretty good volume numbers there for Anthony Davis, a solid prop. All right, guys, next up, we're going to the Bulls-Cavs game. Again, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. We're going Evan Mobley of the Cleveland Cavaliers over 14.5 points. Again, trying to be inclusive of everybody, guys. If you can't bet on DraftKings and you want to take a couple of these picks and put them in a little parlay, again, you can't do all 5 legs, but this is available for -180 on FanDuel, so you could go ahead and put up a little parlay with a couple of these picks there. Actually, better odds on FanDuel than available on DraftKings, but again, not all the lines are available on FanDuel, so that's why we're going with DraftKings in today's parlay. But the data is really solid. A 69%, pause for applause, 69% hit rate so far this year for Evan Mobley. 9 out of 13 games. It's only right that I pause for 69 on Freaky Friday. Come on, guys. 69%, 9 out of 13 games so far this year. He's cashed the over, averaging 17.77 points per game so far this season. And looking at the data, you see, even when he's missed this year, there's such narrow misses. 14 points here, 14 points here, 14 points here. So yes, he's had some misses, but some very, very narrow misses overall. Really good numbers here for Evan Mobley so far this year. I like him in the new Kenny Atkinson system in Cleveland. He's been getting a lot more work, looks, a lot more touches, some more freedom to do what he wants offensively, and has looked really solid this year for the Cavaliers. Even last year, a 52% hit rate on the over, 32 out of 62 games he cashed, averaging 15.76 points per game. So he's better this year, but even last year he hit this at a pretty high percentage. And look at the head-to-head data. He's cashed in 2 of the last 3 meetings against the Chicago Bulls, averaging 18 points per game against them, a 67% hit rate. The one time he missed it back on February of last year, February 14th, Valentine's Day of last year, he missed it by 1 point. He did have 14 points in that game. They have played one time so far this year on November 11th, just a few days ago, and he did cash the over narrowly, but was still cashed 15 points against the Bulls in that one. And to me, this is all about matchup. The Bulls are not a very good defensive team if you haven't watched. They are 27th in the NBA right now in points allowed, giving 120.4 points per game to opposing teams versus power forwards in particular, which is where Evan Mobley mostly slots in, especially when he shares the court with Jared Allen. The Bulls are 26th in points allowed, 27.8 points per game given up to the power forward position. But even look at the center spot as well, 23rd, giving up 21 points per game. So whatever way you shake it, it's a really solid head-to-head matchup for Evan Mobley. All right, guys, next up, our 4th leg in today's parlay. This is the highest juiced line. I don't like doing this too often, but I had to go ahead and throw this prop in here. Again, available on FanDuel and DraftKings. -300 on DraftKings. This line has actually jumped. It wasn't -300 when I started recording. It's jumped. But again, if you want to follow along on FanDuel, that's now 3 out of the 4 legs, or actually for better odds, are available on FanDuel. Not trying to annoy you guys because I keep commenting on. I'm just trying to give you guys options in case you some people who don't use DraftKings, you can still tail along on FanDuel. You just can't have the Devin Vassell line in there. But Rudy Gobert over 9.5 rebounds. He's cashed it in 7 out of 12 games so far this year. A 58% hit rate, averaging 10.42 rebounds per game so far this year for Minnesota. Pretty good numbers there for him. The more important part, though, is the matchup. This one is all about the matchup. The head-to-head data is fantastic. Each of his last 4 meetings against the Sacramento Kings, he's cashed the over, averaging 13.75 rebounds per game in those 4 meetings against the Kings. They played one time so far this year, back on October 24th, and Gobert had 11 rebounds in that game against the Kings. And it makes a ton of sense when you consider the Kings are the 2nd worst team in the NBA in terms of rebounds allowed to the center position, 29th in the NBA, giving a whopping 14.8 rebounds per game against opposing centers. The Kings overall actually aren't a bad rebounding team, but when it comes to centers, the big guys have been getting rebounds against this Kings team. And Gobert already cashed this line once against the Kings this year. 11 rebounds the last time they played. He's averaging about 24 rebound chances per game in their last 4 meetings. Now, the last time they played on October 24th, he had just 16 rebound chances. He did get 11 rebounds with those 16 rebound chances, though. So overall, really good volume, really good stuff here for Gobert. I like the spot. For minus 300 to minus 230, it should be a pretty good prop. And for the fifth and final leg of today's parlay, guys, we're going Andrew Wiggins of the Golden State Warriors over 14.5 points. You can also take this as a single bet if you'd like. It's only minus 120 on FanDuel, minus 150 on DraftKings. A 56% hit rate so far this year for Wiggins. He's cashed the over in 5 out of 9 games, averaging 14.67 points per game this year. If we go to narrow this down to the last 20 games, even dating back to last year, a 65% hit rate on this over for Wiggins. He's definitely turned his game around. A little bit of a rough year last year, a rough couple years, I could say. Post-championship, that last championship they won in 2022, Wiggins has kind of fallen off a little bit, but this year he seems like he's looking more like the 2022 version of himself, doing a lot better, especially with the scoring. But yeah, overall, 65% hit rate over his last 20 games, averaging 15.5 points per game over his last 20 games. That, of course, dates back to last season as well. So far this year, 56% hit rate. The head-to-head data also pretty solid as well. 2 of his last 3 meetings against the Memphis Grizzlies, he has cashed the over, averaging 15.67 points per game in those 3 meetings against Memphis. The data is solid. It's not the best we've seen, especially in this video, but it's solid overall. But the key thing for me, the reason why I love this prop, is the matchup. The Memphis Grizzlies so far this year are the worst defensive team in the NBA in terms of points allowed to the small forward position. That's 30th in the NBA. They're giving up 28.5 points per game to opposing small forwards. So this defense has struggled against the wing, and Andrew Wiggins has a really good opportunity. All we need from him is 15 points. Again, he's cashing it at a 56% hit rate so far this year. I don't see why he can't do it, especially with the matchup as sweet as this one. So guys, those are all 5 legs in today's parlay. Quick little recap. We have Rudy Gobert over 9.5 rebounds, Andrew Wiggins over 14.5 points, Anthony Davis over 24.5 points, Devin Vassell over 15.5 points, and Evan Mobley over 14.5 points. When you parlay all 5 of these picks together on DraftKings, you get a parlay of plus 512 odds. Again, that Gobert rebound prop jumped in odds. It actually was plus 550 before we started recording. It's now at plus 512, so I would recommend hopping on this sooner rather than later in case the odds continue to change. But there's a 5-leg parlay plus 512 odds. However, because I didn't realize while I was recording how the odds looked on FanDuel, and maybe that's stupid on my part, you do have 2 options. If you don't want to use DraftKings, we also have the FanDuel version of this, which actually has better odds, believe it or not, and fewer legs. On FanDuel, you can get this parlay for 4 legs plus 525. That's the Davis prop, the Mobley prop, the Gobert prop, and the Wiggins prop. 4-leg parlay plus 525 odds. I've never really had this happen before in the middle of a video where I found within the same parlay, it's actually kind of better to go with one sportsbook over the other. And the odds actually jumped up now they're plus 531 actually. So I guess it's ultimately up to you. I don't really know how I'm going to grade this at the end of the day. I guess, we'll grade. This is a conundrum. Ultimately, it's up to you guys. If you use DraftKings, the 5-leg parlay is there for you guys. You have the Devin Vassell leg to throw in there. If you just want to do the 4-leg parlay, it's plus 531 odds. I know it's not technically the Freaky Friday 5-leg parlay, but that's an option. If you use FanDuel, actually a little bit better value on that one. So it's ultimately up to you guys. When it comes to grading the picks for tomorrow's video, I guess I'll grade it off the DraftKings one because that's the one I intended to give you guys. Like I said, this is certainly a first. I've never really had this happen before where live recording, I'm like, oh, wait a second. This actually looks a little bit better. Now, the odds did change mid-recording, which is why things shifted. When I started recording, the parlay for the DraftKings one was plus 550, and then the Gobert prop really just jumped in the last 25 minutes or so. So, up to you. Really up to you guys. I mean, it's the same picks, just the only difference is DraftKings, you're adding an extra leg with the Devin Vassell pick, and it's, obviously the odds aren't as great. So, it's all dependent on what you guys want. If you guys don't use FanDuel, the DraftKings parlay is there for you guys. If you don't use DraftKings, well, then there's the FanDuel one. I mean, it's really up to you guys what you want to do. There's no difference in the picks. The picks are the same. Just, again, the DraftKings one has an extra leg added to it. Odds aren't as good. So, up to you guys. Either way, the parlay works. So, we'll grade, I guess, on the 5-leg parlay. And obviously, I'll be pissed if the 4-leg hits and then I don't get to grade that in the record. But my goal here is not record. I saw somebody comment that yesterday. I really don't go for this for the record. I mean, obviously, I want to win bets. I want a good record. But at the end of the day, what's more important to me is handing out solid picks, solid information, and to give you guys winners. So it is what it is. Bet what you'd like. You have 2 options there with the DraftKings one. Obviously, FanDuel better value. But if you don't use FanDuel, you have the DraftKings one as an alternative. So, guys, that is it for me today. Sorry for the little bit of a mind screw up there in the last few minutes, but I just had to get that sorted out because I saw it while I was recording. I'm like, wait, the FanDuel one actually has pretty good value there. So wanted to make sure to go ahead and share with you guys that. I'll be back tomorrow with another NBA player prop video. But until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your Freaky Friday. Have some fun there. We'll see you tomorrow with another NBA player prop video.